You're attempting to do something that's never been done before.
What the women want is to vote, and by golly they ought to.
You can feel the rumble in the ground. The anticipation builds. And then all of a sudden you hear
3, 2, 1. Green light, exit, exit, exit.
You're a part of something really big.
There is a quote that says, "L'histoire est faite par les minorités agissantes." That's French for "history is made by active minorities." What that means is that great changes in history are made when a few people are passionate enough to act. The women's suffrage started out the same way. A small group of women decided to act to change something they felt was wrong.
Abigail Adams in 1776 writes to her husband John Adams and asks him to remember the ladies, as she says, and not to put so much power into the hands of the husbands. He does nothing with that. The American Constitution does not recognize women as legal entities unto themselves. In 1848, when Elizabeth Cady Stanton sits down to write the Declaration of Rights and Sentiments, she'll just tweak the Declaration of Independence. She writes, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal." Simple, 2 words. Of course, it's not that easy. You can say men and women are equal, but how are you going to make them equal under the law? They don't have the vote. So that means men have to vote an overwhelming majority to give women the right to vote. What's more, it's not just a question of making men believe in women, but women have to believe in their own power and believe that they want power for themselves.
Project 19 was inspired by the women of the suffrage movement.
We wanted to honor those women while encouraging the next generation to find their own strength.
The 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was passed in 1920. And the original idea of Project 19 was to celebrate the centennial of that event 100 years later by doing a 100-way vertical world record with just women.
During this vertical world record, we're diving headfirst towards the earth while trying to build the largest all-women formation in history. It's an extreme challenge in teamwork and in individual skill. This is more than just a record. We're attempting something with over 100 women from 22 different countries and all different backgrounds. It's really a testament to what we can accomplish when we all come together.
We're creating a skydive, and you could argue that's pretty pointless, but I think as a symbol, it's very beautiful.
It's unlike anything else. You're flying through the sky. It's exhilarating but calming at the same time, and in the moment, it's just all focus. Nothing else really matters, knowing that it is a sport where you have to save your own life.
Your body is doing something that your brain says is unsafe, and you could die if you don't get it right. So there's that added pressure to perform, but the rewards are so good because it makes you realize what you can achieve. Not just in the situation of a skydive, but in life in general.
So we're here on day 1 for Project 19 at Skydiving, Arizona. So today we're going to go out for jump number 1.
Today we're building 40 ways, so we're building the core of the formation so that when we add in everyone else on the outside, we can be stronger for the rest of the team.
We knew that getting 100 way was a very, very lofty goal.
Generally speaking, records don't necessarily get broken by a lot. We're adding about 40 more girls, 2 more full airplanes, and it's a lot more coordination.
It's such a big animal. You have so many moving parts. There are 100 women coming out of 5 different aircraft at about 20,000 feet, flying head first, going around 200 miles an hour.
We're flying upside down, so on our heads. It's one of the most challenging and fastest free fall positions that we can be in.
Your body's an arrow, but it's super twitchy. You can easily spin out of your position. You can easily lose your balance.
There's so much involved that your senses can shut down.
It took a lot to get here.
I started working towards this in 2016. I've had to travel to Florida, California, Arizona several times, Chicago.
This isn't something you can just show up and do. Even for the world's best skydivers, it takes a lot of practice. We even went to the world's largest indoor skydiving facility in Abu Dhabi. We went there to train the center of the formation, and during that training, we actually set an unofficial world record.
You're attempting to do something that's never been done before, and you have to really create a strategy.
Every part of this jump is meticulously planned, from where each person sits on the airplane to which hand each person grips the formation with. Everything has to be exactly as declared on the diagram, or else it doesn't count as a record.
We were able to draw so much inspiration from the suffrage movement because they had to create a strategy.
In the 19th century, you don't have the internet, obviously, you don't even have the telephone. What you have is speakers who go from town to town and spread the word. There are all kinds of women in the United States, including both free and enslaved Black women, who are active in their communities as abolitionists, like Harriet Tubman, women like Sojourner Truth, who becomes first a preacher and then an abolitionist speaker and then a women's rights speaker. And you can't underestimate the power that those women had in their own communities. Train stop by train stop, talk by talk, community by community. Those ideas get out there into little nooks and crannies all across the nation. And it takes decades, but eventually enough hearts and minds are changed that you have this tipping point where tens of thousands of women can show up in public and declare that they deserve the vote.
So we've gotten the core of the formation strong and the 40 ways flying really nice. Now we know we're ready. We decided to go into Friday morning, picked the best 72 of our team to build a 72 way, which is a very symbolic number in the suffrage movement.
Step by step. You need to put everything you've got into this. We have a lot of people outside of here cheering us on. Let's make them proud.
72 is just this odd thing in women's rights history. 1776, Abigail Adams writes her letter to John Adams. 72 years later is the Seneca Falls Convention. 72 years after that is the ratification of the 19th Amendment in Nashville, Tennessee, where there are 72 steps to the Capitol.
It felt good to go for that number. That number felt right.
coffee.
It just felt so good, so calm. The smoothest flying formation that I've ever been on, and you see the smiles start popping up. We just knew we had it.
The judges are happy to confirm a complete 72-way world record.
It was great.
Remember, this is just the first step. Be happy by all means, because we just broke a world record. That's amazing. But we're not stopping there. We're jumping till we got 100 way. So we have a mission, a message that we want to bring out to the world, and it's going to go louder and clearer if we build that 100 way. So we're not stopping there. When we build that 100 way.
It was one of the best skydives of my life.
Please get up, you Alex.
After the 72-way, boom, we nailed it. We nailed it on the first jump. And so we went up to do an 80-way.
The team that showed up this week really was a team dedicated to setting a goal and working together to achieve it. The focus is still there. You could just see everybody doing their job. It was amazing to just know we didn't even need the video to know that we got that record.
The judges are proud to award you your second world record.
2 back-to-back records, first 2 jumps of the morning. That's not something that happens every day.
We've been adding layer by layer, and all of that process has been going really well. And then we started facing challenges. It's skydiving, things go wrong. Not only does our performance matter, but also our equipment, the weather, the aircraft. We had a few parachute malfunctions already during this event, and that can be scary. You have to find a way to stay focused on the goal and keep performing.
These people are pulling off some pretty intense mental and physical feats to get this done.
It's this harsh environment. The air is thin up there, so we're all breathing supplemental oxygen. It's also really cold up there.
Some women are actually literally climbing on the outside of the plane and holding on before they exit. You imagine the wind chill on top of the temperatures, on top of the low oxygen situation.
You have to keep going back up in the thin air, in the cold. It's physically exhausting, it's mentally exhausting. The only way through it is to work together. Teamwork is critical. If that falls apart, everything does. In fact, that became a major problem in the suffrage movement. Internal conflict was as potentially damaging as any outside opposition they faced.
So the first schism in the fight happens with ratification of the 14th and 15th Amendments. Many of the original suffragists pushed against this, specifically Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, who felt that in a very racist sense, white women deserved the vote before black men. It really undermines the push for suffrage. As soon as rights begin to be taken away from one group, everyone is at risk. That schism lasts for several decades. Eventually, those two sides reconcile, and by 1913, there are already some successes, state by state, to allow women to vote.
And the drive for women's rights was in full swing now. It had momentum. Demonstrations like this got results.
That begins to create a lot of animosity toward the movement. There's a feeling that they must be stopped. Alice Paul's group has been traveling the country pushing hard for a national amendment. And one of the most famous women of that movement, Inez Milholland, collapsed on stage and died from her exertion. 300 women's rights activists meet with Woodrow Wilson and ask him to recognize her sacrifice and to support women's rights. Woodrow Wilson is very patronizing. So in January 1917, Paul and her group of more radical women's rights activists decide that they will begin to picket the White House on a daily basis. No one had picketed the White House yet. They carry standards that have demands on them, but they otherwise don't speak. They say nothing, they're not misbehaving, they just stand all day long, day after day. And it is enraging. It's enraging to journalists, it's enraging to Wilson, and it's enraging to onlookers who often rip the standards out of their hands and assault the women. On the grounds of obstructing the sidewalk, the police arrest the women and they send them to the Occoquan Women's Workhouse in Virginia. They were beaten, kept in the dark, shackled to cell doors with their hands above their heads. And Paul finally decides she's had enough and undergoes a hunger strike, and other women join her. They are going to, if necessary, starve themselves to death until they get what they want. Tubes were stuck down their throats with a funnel, and they were stuffed like geese for foie gras.
The women of the suffrage movement, they believed in their end goal, so they would show up again and again and face the challenges, but continue to show up until they got what they wanted.
On June 4th, 1919, the US Congress votes a 19th Amendment to the US Constitution, which will enfranchise women. Now 3/4 of all states in the United States need to vote for ratification before the presidential election in November 1919. It's a race against time.
Good morning. It is our final day of Project 19.
I'm very excited about today. I really believe in those first jumps. I think all of those girls on the outside can do it. The trick for records is that everybody needs to do their best jump on the same skydive. That's the difficulty of it, but that's also the beauty of it.
The goal is the 100 way. That's the number we want.
Tennessee is their last hope. When it comes down to this final voting day in Nashville, you can see how people are going to vote. If you're against women's suffrage, you wear a red rose on your lapel. If you are pro, you wear a yellow rose. Yellow was the color of international suffrage. It was very, very close.
All of the 100-way attempts on the last day have been just amazing. On each jump, you got the feeling like, oh my God, maybe we made it, you know?
Wow.
Pretty close.
Ah! We so can do it!
And then we come down, okay, one person was out here, but it was just minor problems throughout the whole thing, and something we were just like excited to go up and fix on the next one.
You will see elite female skydivers currently trying to set a new world record.
After 4 jumps on Saturday, it wasn't happening.
It comes down to being neck and neck. That morning, counting the red roses, it looked like the antis had won the day. Only one vote could tip it one way or the other.
It was challenging to ask each person to continue to perform perfect on every single jump.
Okay, everyone, we're trying to hustle because we're running out of daylight.
So we decided to go up and do a 97 way.
Going up for the 97 way, we knew this was our last shot at it. You could really tell that people were rooting for us and on our side. In the airplane, everyone was just really focused, knowing that we have to give it everything we got. We've done it so many times already, we just have to do it this one more time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just got our 2-minute call for the formation skydive.
And we're going to green light in 3, 2, 1, green light. Green light, exit, exit, exit.
Opened my parachute, I felt like we made it.
One young man, Harry Byrne, 22 years old, received a letter from his widowed mother, Feb Ensminger Byrne, saying, "Hurrah for suffrage and don't keep them in doubt." He had pledged his support to the antis, he wore a red rose, and he changed his vote on the floor. It was so unbelievable that he was forced to come the next day and explain how it was that he had suddenly voted for suffrage. So he said, "I knew that a mother's advice is always safe for a boy to follow, and my mother wanted me to vote for ratification. I appreciated the fact that an opportunity such as seldom comes to mortal man to free 17 million women from political slavery was mine." One vote.
I could see the cameramen, they were cheering, so I just thought, wow, we did it.
It looks good. Yeah.
Landing from that jump, we were all high-fiving and cheering, celebrating, knowing we just set another world record. We sit down, and that's when we hear the news.
Check it out, guys. You might have heard by now that was real close, but it was not a record.
We built 96 out of 97, and it was so close.
Even if we build a formation that's larger than the previous record, if it's not exactly as declared, it doesn't count as a record. It's all or nothing.
Does one vote matter? Had Harry Byrne not read his mother's letter, had she not written that letter, had he not cast that vote, basically women's suffrage would start over from zero again. Every vote matters.
We all knew that we didn't get the 100 way, but we also knew that it was a bigger mission than just the record itself. We did something really challenging and brave this week, and we hope that it inspires other women and girls that they can live bold, brave lives of their own design.
Just like the women's suffrage movement, they've come such a long way, but there's still more to go, and we have to keep pushing in that direction.
The fight didn't end with the 19th Amendment, and really it's not over today.
It wasn't until 1924 that the Indian Citizenship Act made voting possible for Natives. Many Asian immigrants were not able to vote for decades after the 1920s. Black women and Black men in the South were kept out of voting due to all kinds of things that weren't addressed until the Voting Rights Act of 1965. There is this sense I think we have that once we have a right, it's ours forever. Voting rights have to be fought for again and again and again, election by election.
We officially broke 2 skydiving world records. We unofficially broke that record, but we have to keep trying. We still want that 100 way. We're still looking towards the future.
The fight is a fun one. It doesn't have to be grim. There's a lot of joy in activism, and finding the thing that you're passionate about can bring you joy while you make change.